How's it going, guys? Jacob Rothenberg here. In case you're new for 4 years now and have been making a six-figure income from it, been able to quit my job, travel the world, do lots of cool stuff, live a life of absolute freedom. And what I want to talk about in today's video is the whole question on a lot of people's minds this year. It's 2021. Things are drastically different from even just a year ago in publishing. And so the question is, what is the best niche to publish for in Kindle Publishing? There's nonfiction, low content, and fiction. So I'm going to talk about each of these, what it really entails, along with the pros and cons of publishing in each of these niches, because I've actually done all three. I have published in nonfiction, I've published in low content, and I publish in romance fiction specifically. Hey, Jeff, thanks for getting on the channel. Appreciate you hopping on right when I launched. Yeah, I'm back to doing videos, and I plan on doing one, maybe two a week, just to keep things active and to stay in touch with everyone. So I will start with how I started in Kindle Publishing, and I think it's a great way to build a base with your publishing business, and that's referred to as nonfiction books. So nonfiction books is just how it implies. You're covering books, writing and publishing books that are related to non-fictional topics. So an example of this would be a book on starting a business or writing a book on a business startup kit. This is all factual. It's supposed to be some sort of guide, reference tool, some kind of informational source that customers are looking to, hopefully not just for information, but also to solve a problem. Because if we ever have topics that we want to learn more about or need the answer to in solving a problem, what do? We usually read a resource about it. And whether it's Wikipedia or Google, you can also buy a book related to a topic in order to really learn all the intricacies and details about it. Another example that would require an actual book to be read is if you didn't major, well, even if you did major in like quantum physics, you're not going to be able to read Wikipedia articles or Google everything related to quantum physics in order to really learn it. So even if you're in college and majoring in physics, you're going to have to read some books. So that being said, and funnily enough, this book that I'm highlighting with my cursor is self-published. Books are a valuable, vital piece of humankind in being able to provide informational resources. And nothing will ever replace that, at least for the next century or, I don't know, millennium, until some better medium comes through. I think books are here to stay. So, yeah, I think that's pretty self-explanatory. And so nonfiction books tend to be nowadays on the longer side of things. So you're not writing these 1,000 or 2,000 word books. Those are essays. Instead, you want something that's fairly substantial, whether it's 100 pages, 150 pages, even upwards of 300 pages if you want. You are writing a book. Again, you're not writing some blog entry. You're not writing some article. You are writing a book. And with that, it is fairly significant to write your own book. I know when I wrote my first few books myself, obviously, starting Kindle Publishing, I felt a great sense of achievement and accomplishment with writing my own books. I mean, who does that? Very rarely do people write over 100 pages unless they, have a master's degree in how to write a thesis or some such. You're really not going to find yourself in a life situation where you're writing a 100-page, 200-page manuscript. So writing a book in nonfiction is fairly substantial as an endeavor, or as people do as well, they outsource the writing to what's called a ghostwriter. So someone that writes the book, writes the content for you, but you still end up owning the rights to the manuscript, and you publish it in your own self for your own take of the profits. And I'll be honest, guys, nonfiction right now is fairly expensive to outsource, because if you're doing something related, let's just say related to physics, do you think anyone, just anyone, can write a book on physics? No. You're going to have to find someone fairly technical that actually understands physics. So it's very probable that they're going to have, at the minimum, a bachelor's degree, and they're going to have to demand a certain fee for their expertise. So a book like this, let's say if I were to outsource it from someone that had a degree in physics, could run as high as maybe $2, maybe even $2.50 per 100 words. If we had a 10,000 word book written, that's already fairly substantial with the cost. So you can imagine that outsourcing a 100-page book on something very technical and nonfiction can suck up a lot of overhead. And from a business standpoint, you have to consider, okay, if this book is going to cost me at least $1,000 to produce, how am I going to ensure that I'm actually going to make a profit from this book, or else I'm $1,000 out? So you have to think, okay, I definitely need to, number one, make sure I'm on a keyword that's in demand. Actually, people are looking into it. They want to buy books related to my topic, related to my keyword. And so I'm not doing a book on underwater basket weaving. I've got a book that people actually search for and look for in my keyword. So I'm evident with this. This has a bestseller ranking of 59,000, which is actually pretty good. So I know for a fact this book is in demand. It's not disputable. This book is being bought quite actively. So there's that. And something that I also teach in my program, and I'll talk about that in a bit later, is not only are you publishing for a profitable keyword, but you've also got to consider who is already in your keyword and how will you be able to get visibility, and also how to get the purchasing decision versus other books. Why would someone want to buy your book when the For Dummies version already exists, when maybe David Griffiths has already published a book, when perhaps a really awesome cover has the top ad spot for your keyword? Why would someone buy your book? That's something to always consider. And yes, there's obviously strategies related to that. You can have a great cover yourself. You can have the top ad spot to yourself. You can have the actual credibility. Maybe you're a doctor. You can write the book yourself and have the most credibility for your keyword, or at least a great deal of credibility. So that's something to weigh in when writing a book and deciding how to make money from it, and if you can even make your investment back if you're outsourcing it. Now, specific to nonfiction, unlike low content, and honestly, most people don't even publish books for audio anymore for fiction, not much in the self-publishing world. What's really special about nonfiction is that you can have your audiobook produced. So it's literally an audio version of your book read by your narrator that you can hire through the ACX program and through publishing through Audible. You can have your audiobook for sale on the Amazon store. Now, I'm chuckling because this is written, narrated by, like, copyrights Robert Musk. Like, are you related to Elon, bro? But you can make a lot of money with audiobooks. Just because, if you think about it, guys, have you listened to an audiobook before? I mean, come on, you probably already have. And if not, if you're someone that commutes, maybe you're in the car, or you're like maybe doing cardio. I don't know. But if you're doing something that doesn't really require like super focused concentration, and it's something rather mundane, like you probably want to pass the time listening to something that can give you informational knowledge or even entertainment, whatever the case may be. So for audio, self-help, business, even diet and fitness are topics that people want to listen to while they're driving in their car. I know myself, I listen to a lot of self-help books when I was commuting to and from work during my car commute, just because my commute was so long. So audiobooks are a very good avenue to make money, aside from publishing the paperback version of your book. So if I were to like quickly assess the pros and cons of nonfiction, pros, it's really easy to get into it. People are most familiar with nonfiction books when they're thinking about what type of book to publish for. If it could be a keto book, a diet book, it could be a cookbook. When you go into Barnes and Noble store, the first books you see are all related to nonfiction, unless like Harry Potter is having his debut or whatever. um, you're usually gravitating towards nonfiction books. The pro with that as well, it sells very well. There's a ton of popular niches, a lot of popular keywords that are potentially going to make you money. However, on the flip side, there is existing competition, especially for the bigger keywords like cookbooks. So you have to strategize how you can get sales and how you specifically can get visibility versus your competitors. And also, it's rather, in terms of overhead, rather expensive to outsource a book these days for something related to nonfiction, unless you find someone yourself that just is really good and willing to take a cheaper wage to write your book, or you write the book yourself, which is always an option, guys. So that's great about nonfiction, in all honesty. And yes, you do have the option of having an audiobook produced and making lots of money from audiobooks. Definitely still possible here in 2021, with or without codes. I don't care what anyone says. So next, I will cover fiction, because it was actually asked by a viewer in my last video to cover. Now, I will give you guys full disclosure. I have zero experience in publishing mystery, horror, science fiction, all of that. I have specifically done romance fiction for 2 years now, just over 2 years, actually. So I've been around the block with romance fiction, and I know quite a deal about it, but I can't really help you with being profitable in the other categories of fiction. But I will talk about it anyway, just to give a general overview. So with fiction, you are publishing fictional stories, fictional tales that people consume for entertainment. So unlike nonfiction, where you're covering topics to provide information and problem solving and being a resource for help, in fiction, it's all about entertainment. No one's wanting to read R.L. Stein's Goosebumps to become a PhD in astronomy. No one is reading Stephen King and wanting to become the next Elon Musk car manufacturing guru. All right. So you will want to focus on being entertaining with your books. And let's take a look at something that I really don't have a lot of expertise in: science fiction. Personally speaking, science fiction is actually my favorite niche of fiction. But I will be honest, once again, guys, unless you are really, really good and you have some kind of strategy that to monetize your science fiction work, not just anyone can publish a book in science fiction and be profitable. I would actually say it's freaking hard to pull off. Just because, yeah, there's a lot of readers for sure, but you've already got Stephen King in here somehow. You've got a lot of authors. I'm not going to be like some pretend guru on science fiction. There's a lot of authors here I've never heard of. They could be really good. They could be really prolific. I don't know. But you've got all these authors already up in here, and it's very competitive. So with fiction, it's actually a bigger market, believe it or not, than nonfiction in terms of book sales on Amazon. People tend in science fiction to buy paperbacks and or the ebook. So like if you have a Kindle reader, you can buy the ebook version. I'll go ahead and click on this. This is a bundle of 6 books that are available for download for just $10, as opposed to perhaps buying a paperback version of a book, and one paperback being $13. Imagine buying 6 books, one book costing $13. That would add up to over $70 really quickly. But if you just buy the ebook version, it comes at a heavy discount because there's no physical product being shipped. Now, what I want to talk about more so, because it's in my comfort zone, is romance fiction. Romance is the biggest niche of books on Amazon. Nothing comes even close to the popularity of romance in Amazon for selling books. So if I were to go to the top 100 Kindle bestseller stores, the Kindle store for bestsellers, a good chunk of books are going to be in the top 100. I've actually been in the top 100 3 times in total. Last year, I actually hit number 300. That was my peak without spending too much at all. So that was pretty chill. My business partner in my fiction program, Sunana, she was in the top 100 4 times last year. And yes, LJ Shen is number 15. We've got, some paranormal book here, Rejected. Number 16. Yeah, and the top 100 is proliferated with romance fiction books that are just killing it. So I can guarantee you these books in the top 30 are making at least $600 per day, if not more. Especially if they're like $3.99 as opposed to like 99 cents. These books make bank. If you're looking for just high-end revenue, if you just want to crush it with revenue and go crazy with one book, it's definitely possible with romance. Like if you just want to make $600 a day with one book, the easiest way to do it, I shouldn't say easiest, but the most viable way to do it, like there's actually a path towards it if you have the right strategy in place, is with romance. So romance lets you scale like crazy if you have the whole infrastructure in place and everything is put into place for marketing and for having great content. Now, that being said, I will be honest with you guys, unless you're writing the books yourself, romance particularly is very expensive to outsource. It can cost, especially if you're doing longer books, like this is 422 pages, but LJ Shen writes her own books. You could be spending upwards of at least $1,000 for even a 30 or 40,000 word book. And the longer it is, the more it's going to cost. So like, let's just say hypothetically, this 338 page book was outsourced. This could cost upwards of $5,000 to produce, along with a cover that may or may not use an exclusive model, meaning this is not some stock image. Well, maybe it is from from somewhere where you can source images, and it's just a very expensive endeavor, and it's actually kind of hard to start up in romance. It can take a year to gain momentum, and it's a lot of hard work. It's actually kind of like a full-time job the first few months starting out to really get going, and it takes like a few books to get going. You can't just unless you get lucky. I got lucky last year with my new pen, but unless you're very lucky, you're not going to have your first ever book just take off and go crazy. It takes a few books to get momentum, usually at least a series of books. So, romance fiction, particularly, is very, very hot, very viable to scale up. However, it is difficult to build a brand for it, and it takes a lot of expertise. And that's why people will pay a premium to learn how to publish in romance fiction. So last in this stream, let me just check the time. I have a call in 20 minutes. I will talk about low content books. And this is actually, I think, becoming the most popular form of books to publish for among self-published authors. So let's go over this. Let me just check something real quick on Facebook. Make sure I'm not missing any chat questions. All right, I think we are good for now on that. So, low content refers to, as the name infers, books that don't have a lot of written content. So, you don't have these books filled with words and text. Instead, you have illustrations, you have designs, you have more visual content as opposed to written content in your books. And that's why it's called low content in our circle. So low content books can feature pictures. I'll give you guys an example. Let's look at this. I don't know personally who Uncle Bob is. Uncle Bob is doing pretty well with this book. But anyhow, if we were to look inside, it's just a book that has some text, but it's like it's got some illustrations, and it's more of like an activity. So for these kinds of books, there's two subgenres of it. You have the genre of entertainment. So this book does not really educate you on anything, maybe other than vocabulary. But you can design these books to entertain children or adults, entertain your demographic, or to educate your demographic. So if I were to do like trivia books for kids, this is likely still going to be a low content book. I'll just click on, I don't want to click on anyone's ads. Wow, why are mazes here too? All right. Let's just click on this book. This is a riddle book. Let's say we're now doing riddles. It's a form of trivia, I guess. If I were to click on this, I am willing to bet. Oof. Why is this all ebookish? Let's do the print book. You don't have a whole lot of text. You can have some text, obviously, guys, but notice we don't have like 300 words per page. You can have less content in your book, but still be worthy of purchasing. Let's look at another book. I'll give you guys a better example. Let's look at this unicorn coloring book, which does not even have a preview feature yet. It's okay. This book shows you the interior. So this book is filled with illustrations that your child or even you could color inside for. So you've got this unicorn with some clouds and stars you can design in. Likewise, you have this pretty unicorn here you can color in. And children love unicorns, and they'll love coloring inside it. It's a good activity. It also builds cognitive skills and creative art skills. So that's pretty cool. Let's look at another example. I want to do something that's a little abstract. How about, yeah, I actually want to cover this. Let's say Maze books for kids. Let's actually mix it up. Maze books for adults. Low content is not always for kids. You can also have activity books for adults. So let's look at this one. This one's that's not really my taste. I find the cover to be a little bit bland, but it is selling at least decently well, and it's almost 2 years old. So this book must be doing something right. But you can even design mazes, and adults will pay to, I guess, navigate through mazes. I used to design mazes, guys, when I was like 7 years old. I found it really fun, but I outgrew that. So, hey, if you still like doing mazes, more power to you. But yeah. Now, the pros of low content, as you can probably imagine, it's much cheaper. If you were to outsource, let's say, it's much cheaper to have someone design a maze for you rather than write some epic novel related to some science fiction thriller or providing you a book related to a programming language. Just about anyone can design a freaking maze, guys. I think we can all hire, I'm not endorsing this, but theoretically, anyone could hire a 14-year-old kid to digitize a maze that you can publish for. So it's much cheaper to outsource these books. You don't even need an English native writer because these are more visual designs. You can outsource these kinds of designs from a service provider in, let's say, a third world country where the dollar goes a much longer way than it does here in the US, where I'm from. So there's that. Also, low content is very, very lucrative. To be honest, most of my most successful clients are in low content. And when I mean successful, I'm talking, especially during like December when gifts are being bought for kids and books get bought a lot, making $30,000 a month, $25,000 a month. This is hot. This is a hot market. And even off season, let's say during the summer, you can still be making several thousand a month with low content books. Now, on the flip side, because low content is getting more popular to publish for, it's very competitive. So if you find yourself publishing a book, you just kind of make it, you send it out there, and then you forget about it. You don't really promote it or get reviews for it. You're just going to fall off real quickly. No one's going to see your book, and you're not going to make a single sale. So you want to make sure that you have knowledge on how to properly market your books, how to get reviews for your books. And if you want to learn how to market your books, on a very deep level and work with someone that can teach you, that's what I'm here for. So that's my program mainly, along with how to publish. And PM me if you want more details on that. Another con about low content, another slight disadvantage, you can't sell these books on a low volume scale and make a lot of money. These books have to be sold cheaply, and you have to sell lots of them. And so it's all about quantity and selling at a high volume. So, for instance, I can't sell this book for mazes for $40. No one's going to freaking buy it. When my existing competitors are all selling between $4.99 to maybe $12.99. You're going to have to price yourself appropriately against your competitors. And I don't care what any other Kindle publishing coach tells you. What I'm telling you is correct. Let's put it that way. So competition does matter, and you have to price your book accordingly. And as such, you're only going to make maybe $1 or $2. Well, I'll say $2 to $3 per copy sold. So the name of the game is not to sell one copy a day. The name of the game is to sell 100 copies a day of your books. Because even if you're making $2 per book, what's $2 times 100 copies sold per day? $200 per day. Now we're talking. Now we're talking about making a full-time income from publishing. So that's the goal here. It's about volume and selling many copies of your books. Something I'd also like to add is that it is getting saturated, guys. So you do need to put some effort in your low content books. You can't just publish 100 maze books and just put it out there and expect to have a business. It doesn't work like that. You're better off featuring quality with your production, taking the care towards marketing your book. And, even if it means taking it slowly, you want to build momentum for your first book before you hop off and publish 20 more books in low content, because that's not how it works in this business. Quality matters, marketing matters, and thus you do need some strategic competence when you're publishing for books on Amazon. Sup, Boo? Thanks for joining the stream. And I've got to hop on my 11 o'clock call in a bit. It's almost time. So that's about it, guys. Now, of course, I have to give the spiel. I have a new program. It's done its beta launch in December. It's actually going really well. So if you're interested in publishing low content and nonfiction books, I have the biggest Kindle Publishing program for low content and nonfiction, and it includes unlimited one-on-one coaching with me and unlimited calls in perpetuity. It is one hell of a deal. I don't even really have to sell it, but I'm doing the beta program just to make sure, number one, that students get results. And yes, students are getting results. So I'm going to take it off beta pretty soon and go full out with the launch. And number two, it's also a stress test of how many clients can I handle without having to hire on another coach. And so far, I'm doing fine with managing the program. So I think it's a great opportunity if you're someone that wants to work with a coach and work with someone like me one-on-one to really get your business going. You have that accountability and you have that person who's experienced, more experienced than you at least, with building your business and making sure it scales and eventually achieve a profit. That's what the program is all about. And the final beta price is $1,000 US dollars. And I think that's one hell of a deal. It's actually too good of a deal, but that's the deal. So one last question I will answer is from Boo Baker. Boo asks, let me get over here. Branding books. I have a bunch of books that are selling really well. Yeah, building a brand can be fairly simple. So I will actually just stray away from like low content. But what is branding your book? So let's look at a popular romance fiction author, Summer Brooks. This is an author that always makes at least $20,000 a month, if not more nowadays. So let's take a look at the Summer Brooks brand of romance books. When I think of looking at someone's brand, I like to see if they have a series of books, meaning they have a catalog of books. So there's several products to choose from when you're looking at a brand. And guys, you have to realize when we're talking about building a brand, what is building a brand? A brand is an entity that is in demand that people are looking for because of its features. So I know it sounds so cliche, like what the hell are people talking about when they say building a brand? Is that some buzzword that people just say to sound like they know what they're talking about with these books? And building a brand means having something of quality that people will go out and look for its merit. So Summer Brooks is a very good romance author, and people will go out of their way to read romance books from Summer Brooks. They're going to go look for it because she has a very good reputation in the space for romance. So let's take a look, for example, the whole brand. So number one, what I see is they have a series of books. these books have similar looking covers within the series. So, I mean, they're not carbon copies, obviously, but it's pastel, it's bright, you've got good looking models, it's got that contemporary look, it's got some sheen to it. I like it a lot. And if we were to look at the bigger picture of this author's catalog, you've got multiple books to choose from. And I would fare to guess that the similar looking books are all related to a series. So I want to look at this series of books. I guess Stealing My Best Friend. Ooh. Again, this brand has over 300 reviews for just this book. It's a 6-book series with this kind of background. You've got the half face showing for each book. It's very consistent. Each entry is very consistent with its aesthetic appeal, especially for a cover, because covers do matter, guys. Covers definitely matter. So if I ever go to this book, we have the same kind of aesthetic appeal. Even the titles have consistency. The first word in each title is a verb. Stealing, crushing, disobeying, marrying. This one has a half face for the guy, full face for the woman, but whatever. It's very consistent. So if you're thinking about building a brand, you want to have something that's a little bit uniform, but also something that people will go to for not just one product, but your readers will want to look at all of your products for your book brand. Now, to contrast that with something nonfiction related, I'm almost out of time, but let's look at Martha Stewart. I think Martha Stewart is the most obviously, it's a very obvious brand as a go-to reference for, I don't know, home decor, home design. I don't know. So she has, cooking appetizers, pies and tarts, cooking, baking, blah, blah, blah. Why do people go to Martha Stewart? It's because she has built a brand of having expertise related to cooking, entertainment, home, blah, 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 blah. So when you think about building a brand, what can you feature as your value proposition? Is it going to be your expertise? Are you going to be the most knowledgeable person in your field on social media, on the web, in real life? Do you have the best book or best books related to your keyword, related to your genre? Do you have the best books on learning how to play poker? Have you developed the system, the super system on how to do it? Are you someone that's won the World Series of Poker? And thus people would be very interested in reading your system on poker? There's a lot of avenues to go about it. If you're doing books on, let's say, designing mazes for kids, do you have the sickest, the most illest, the best looking mazes that anyone has ever had in your books? Maybe you do. Maybe you're someone that's been known in the maze community for having the most fun mazes to navigate through. I don't know. But you have to think about what would make you special in your catalog of books that really builds a brand that people actively go out and look for. And starting out, you can just simply run ads to be visible and have high quality books and take it from there. So that's about it, guys. I am going to have to head off and do my 11 o'clock call. I will see you all next week. If you have requests for content and for things you want to see on the channel, hit me up in the comments below. I'm going to be on guaranteed next week. Otherwise, take care. Keep publishing. I'll see you later.